Ali, thank you so much for joining me here on the Homeschool Sanity Show. I am excited to get into our topic today, but I thought I would begin by having you tell us more about yourself and your family.
Yes, well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Ali Gilkeson. My husband and I are from Ireland. I'm from a little town called Carrickfergus, which is just outside Belfast. And we moved to the States about 10 years ago. We go back and forward. And I have three kids. They are 10, 7, and 6. I've got two boys and then a little girl. And yeah, we're just doing life, and I love this whole um, homeschool community. I love that it's homeschool sanity because I feel like homeschooling for me was like drove me insane, and so I just have so much respect and honor for anybody who's out there and homeschooling for sure.
Yes, well, I feel the same, both in terms of feeling like you're overwhelmed at the beginning, and also I just have so much respect for other homeschooling parents. I say that they are the best parents on the planet, and that is truly what I believe. Well, Ali, I am interested in knowing what led you to homeschooling originally.
Yeah. So homeschooling for me, I will honestly say, wasn't a choice. Um, what was happening is my husband and I were in a band together called Rend Collective, and so we spent our full time touring. And so when it came to the idea of, I mean, we took our kids on the road from when they were 6 weeks old. So from a very young age, they were on the road, on tour buses, growing up in venues, learning to walk in moving buses and airplanes, and always on the go. When it came to the point of schooling, we had to make a decision of, are we going to, one of us stay at home and so kids can go to school, or will we try this homeschooling thing? And so we decided, yeah, we wanted to keep going with the band and keep traveling and keep touring and have that freedom and flexibility as much as we could. And so I thought, well, here we go. I'll give it a whirl. And yes, it was that. So that's what led me to the decision so that we could keep the band going, keep our community going. And yeah, the kids just kind of learned on the road as we went.
And it's worked out for you. Now, how old are your three kids now?
So my eldest is 10. He's Arthur. And then I have a 7-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl.
All right.
And
So,
so they were homeschooled up until last year.
okay. All right. Very good. So I love hearing that, by the way, because I just think it is incredible the flexibility that homeschooling offers to families. There are so many reasons why various guests over the years have said that they have chosen to homeschool, and I love having guests
Mm-hmm.
share that because I think it's so inspirational to my listeners and also people who have chosen to stop and start homeschooling for various reasons too. So
Yes,
I'm so glad that you
yes.
shared that.
I think it's so important to, yeah, to do what sort of works for your family, and I feel like even in America, I mean, the scope for it is so much larger. In Ireland, where we grew up, nobody was homeschooled, zero. And still to this day, very, very minimal kids are homeschooled. And when we take our kids home to Ireland, we're back and forth a lot because all our family's still back there. And I'll have my kids, at the playground or at the zoo or somewhere at a day that's a school day. And the looks that we get, people are like, why are these kids not in school? Do the police know? um,
Wow.
and so it's still like a big thing back there that it's
Mm.
just not the norm at all. And so it was a big transition for us, even for my mindset, to be like, this is what we do, and it was I was so glad that we did it.
Aw, that's neat. Well, thank you for sharing that. I would not have been thinking about that you could still be socially unacceptable to have your kids out of school.
Oh,
Yeah, very, very
yeah.
interesting. Okay, so we are talking today about helping kids who feel different. And I think that's actually a fantastic transition that, at one point with homeschooling, um, kids felt very, very different. And we're going to talk about that in a moment.
Mm.
But because we're talking about kids who feel different, I wanted to ask you if you ever felt that way growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, particularly, I grew up in a very Christian household, and in school, I felt like you were always trying to, you just naturally stood out because you wouldn't do the same things that other kids did. So maybe you wouldn't swear, or you wouldn't. I remember the big thing was like that you wouldn't take the Lord's name in vain. You wouldn't say those things,
Hmm.
and other kids would be like, why wouldn't you just say this, or why wouldn't you do this? And then as you get older, it's all the peer pressure of all the things that teenagers are trying, and or places that they're going, and you had to stand your ground and say, I don't do that, I don't go there, like I believe something different, and or I'm trying to live my life different. And so that was the main thing that I came up against. And I mean, I got bullied in school for being a Christian. I remember having to eat my lunch in the toilets by myself because there was just so much conflict. And yeah, there was a real moment of going, will I ever fit in? Will I ever be accepted? Will I ever be able to just be myself? And so I think it's a real challenge for kids, even from such a young age, who are maybe trying to follow the teachings of their parents or their church or their beliefs, and trying to do things a little bit different. For sure, it's tricky.
Hmm. And then we can have all of these physical differences or personality differences or
Yeah.
skill differences. Maybe we struggle with something or we're very gifted at it. And any of those things can make us stand out and appear different. And we know developmentally that kids would, for the most part, like to fit in and be very similar to their peers,
Yes.
right? To be accepted.
Hmm.
And so it can
Right.
be a real
Hmm.
struggle. And I know that we're going to be talking about that. But I was wondering, because here in the States, homeschooling has become so mainstream, especially after COVID. Do you think that
Yeah.
homeschooled kids still feel different?
Um, in my personal experience, I've actually the homeschool kids and community that we had surrounded ourselves with. I think most of them felt very lucky. They're like, oh, we don't have to get up every day. We don't have to do this. Like we get to, you know, um, learn about what we want, or try and do things differently. So my experience, we now live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I think as well because there's a lot of musician culture and a lot of parents that do creative jobs, and so have that ability to maybe homeschool a little bit more. There is such a good homeschool community for that, and so there's lots of places you can take your kids, like tutorials and days out and picnics, and to meet with other homeschool kids. So, um, for me and my kids, I don't feel that they ever felt different. I felt
Mhm.
like they felt, oh, we've got it good. We get to go on the road, we get to travel, we get to see friends during the day. We can do school up until 11:30 in the morning, and then go on an adventure, or we can do our homework outside, or they kind of had the all these possibilities. Um, I do feel, however, from my experience, it might be a little bit different because they were homeschooled from the start. So
Mhm.
maybe, kids that maybe went to school and then are now brought out of school maybe feel different. They can feel rejected. They can feel, was I not good enough, or what
Mhm.
happened, or all of that. And the same thing with, I mean, this is the first year actually my kids are in school this year, just the way it needed to work out for our family. And so my kids entered a school with a whole different background to all these other kids. You know, they're like, I have to ask to go to the bathroom. What is that about? Don't they trust me that I'm, you know, I know when I need to go. You know, why do I need permission for this? Why can I not, when I cannot talk? I remember just actually a few weeks ago, my daughter came home and she talked about this bubble mouth. And I'm like, what is a bubble mouth? And it's like, well, when we need to be quiet, we have to bubble our mouths up so that they don't talk. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is happening? You know, and so she, in her mind, she's going, I've never had to do this before, you know, and so suppose they have felt a little bit different from where they have come from in now trying to transition into a school. And but I feel mostly that they are like, oh, it was so much better for homeschooling. We didn't know how good we had it.
And you know,
like, I know you guys were really lucky.
And I think you're tapping into something that my kids definitely experienced, and we as adults experience as well, which is fear of missing out. And grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And I found that my oldest, who did go to school for his last 2 years of high school, definitely had that, because he had many friends who were in public or private school. And he kept feeling that he was missing out on this amazing experience at school. And my husband and I felt that he needed to go to school to satisfy that curiosity about what was actually happening. My other kids seemed to discover that they weren't missing out on as much as they thought, without having to go to school. But I do think that there is that aspect to it. You know, are other people having a lot more fun? And it can work both ways, because my kids had friends who would say to me, I wish I was homeschooled.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly.
So
yes, absolutely.
It can work both ways, right? So when we have a child who is feeling rather the pain of being different, and different in not a good way. You know, there's a being different that's a positive, and then there's being different that feels at least like a negative to our kids. How can we as parents comfort our kids in that?
Yes, I feel like in terms of being different, whether it's physical, mental, your circumstances, you know, for us, it's, we all have accents, you know, so everyone's always like, oh, where are you from? Or what do you do? And I feel like for me as a parent, I always wanted from an early age for my children to understand the celebration of diversity, and for them to also really grasp the concept that comparison will steal your joy. You know, as soon as you start trying to compare yourself with other people, either your age, I mean, we as adults struggle with this all the time too. As soon as you start comparing or seeing different things, whether it's on social media or, I mean, for me, particularly as a homeschooling mom, I struggled with it massively, because I would see these other homeschooling moms that in my mind were doing such an incredible job, and I'm like struggling day by day going, oh, I don't know if they're learning anything. But in terms of with kids, I feel like as a parent, if you can model that to be, it's even, I don't even really like the word different. I just like the word be yourself, and the freedom to be yourself. And so it's not that you're different, you're just yourself, you know? And so teaching kids from a young age that being who you are is the best thing you can give this world. And people may reject you, and people may tease you, and people may say things, but that will never compare to if you can just be who you are. That is how you live the full expression of life. And I try and model that with my kids all the time, because my eldest, he is different. He's quirky and loves, magic and loves, isn't like, he's not in school going, oh, let's play football, let's do this,
Hmm.
he's doing his own thing, but is unashamedly himself. And I just love that about him, that he has captured this, I'm going to be who I am, and it's up to the world of what they do. I'm not responsible for how people feel about me. I'm responsible for how I feel about me. And so teaching kids that, like, key principle, I think, is just so valuable all the time. And then seeing us as parents do that too, where I live in a full expression of who I am. I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses or try and fit in all the time. I'm not trying to put this persona on in my house and how I live. It's like, I am who I am. I'm different. I'm from a whole different country with a whole different culture and different upbringing. But we be who we are,
Hmm.
So, and we can't take responsibility for how they feel or what they say, and but you have responsibility for who you are and how you approach the world.
Hmm.
And yes, I think helping your kids and surrounding them with different people and different cultures. And we take our kids to different restaurants, Indian restaurants, Thai restaurants, and you're going, yep, this is different. Like, let's embrace it. Let's celebrate it. It's going to be spicy. You're going to not be able to feel your throat. But it's a laugh, it's a fun, and so teaching them all the time, like, here's different people, we, and I honestly, for us, I feel like that was one of the gifts that we got with touring with our kids, that we've toured the country, we've toured all of Europe and UK with them, and they've got to see a lot of different cultures. They've got to understand people are different. You're not surrounded by people who look like you or talk like you or act like you. Everyone is different, and we celebrate each other's differences.
Hmm. Well, I love that. I mean, I think there's just so much of value in what you just shared right there. And, the fact that we would be so bored if we were all identical,
Right,
or even
right.
as a dog lover, if there was only one dog breed, you know,
Right,
uh,
right, yes,
it's just
yes.
the variety is such a gift that God has given us. And I think
Hmm.
as we mature, we begin to appreciate that more and more. And so I love that you are bringing that lesson to your kids, and it's something that we have to keep talking about, because comparison, that
Yeah.
fear of missing out, that establishing a positive identity in our kids is something that is a long process that
Hmm.
takes lots of experience
Yeah,
and coaching and teaching from parents, for sure.
absolutely. And it
Yeah.
is words like courage and bravery. Like, it does take those things to be who you are, to stand out. And so actually, just when you're saying about dogs, there's a fantastic kids book called Odd Dog Out. Sorry, that my accent sounds terrible. Odd Dog Out. Odd Dog. Anyway, it's about a book about all these dogs, and they're all the same, and then one starts acting differently, and it's like, oh, let's celebrate the differences. And it's a really cute kids book. I love it, because it was just, it celebrates exactly that, when you maybe feel
Wow.
different, and it's like, oh, now you're, and then by the end of the book, all the dogs are different, and it's so cute.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to put a link to that book in the show notes. It sounds just adorable. So thank you for mentioning that. And
Yes.
speaking of books, you have written a children's picture book called My Lighthouse. Can you tell us what motivated you to write this book?
Sure. So, a very long time ago, maybe, well, my goodness, maybe about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the band my husband and I were in is called Rend Collective. And my husband brought this song to me called My Lighthouse. And he first played it to me, I was like, ooh, it's probably a little too cheesy. And I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know. And of course, it was like our biggest song of all time. It's not a platinum selling song, so shows you how much I know.
Right.
And So this song just became so huge, and we noticed that even from a young age, children from 3 were enjoying it up until, you know, older people were enjoying it. Prisons were playing it. Sunday schools were playing it. Most of the schools in the UK were all doing it in their assemblies. We would get these videos of kids doing the actions, and it just was like starting this really snowball. And it was so exciting, and we just loved hearing how the song was connecting to just the whole range of age. And so reading for me has with my kids has been just something I put so much value in. I feel like the moment that you can sit down with your kids and everybody gathers in close and you open up a book and you see their little imaginations begin to run like wild and free, and you get these stories come to life in their mind. I just love that because, you know, so much of the day, particularly if you have boys, they're just like boop, 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 bouncing off walls and running and climbing. And it's like, okay, this is the time that brings us closer together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would spend a lot of time reading, and so much, some of the times, you know, the books they would pick, I'd be like, no, not that one, you know, or the artwork, and, you know, it's like, this wasn't good or wasn't fun. You're like, oh, I have to do this one again. And so I really wanted to take the song that we had written and create a children's book about it, and something that looked beautiful, that parents would enjoy, that every time you opened a page, you'd be like, you could imagine putting that picture on your wall, or and then have little. I love writing with a little bit of humor, and so humor that parents would enjoy while the kids were enjoying the story and the characters and the development. And so, yeah, I decided to write a book, a kid's book, to go along with the song. And I was so fortunate enough that an artist called Lee Wildish, who's a New York Times bestselling illustrator, wanted to take on the story and do it. And he has done just the most phenomenal job. It just looks so beautiful. But even with what we're talking about, that's what the story is about. It's about a little boy called Finn who lives in a lighthouse, and he does not like it because it's very different. You know, everything's round, where all his friends live in square houses. And so he decides to set off on an adventure in his rowboat and gets lost in the dark out to sea, and realizes that it's his house that is actually guiding everyone around him and him safe to shore. And so it's about learning to be grateful for what you have and to appreciate that it may be different, but there's purpose and there's meaning. And also just to teach kids that you may feel lost, you may feel alone, but there's always a light that's shining, trying to guide you home. And that Jesus will always be there for you. God is always there for you. He's always shining, and you can really trust him. So that's why I wrote it, and had such a good time doing it. I'm so excited for it to finally make it out into the world.
Yes, it takes a while. I mean, just your description of the book, it just touches me, and I'm so excited for our listeners to get a copy of it. I want to get a copy of it. My kids are grown now, but I'm hoping and expecting to have grandkids. One of these days, my kids have to get married first, but hopefully it's not too far off in the future. But tell us the best place that we can get a copy of My Lighthouse.
Yes, well, it's coming out on June 18th this year, and you can pre-order on Amazon right now. You'll be able to get it in all major bookstores, Target, Walmart, all the places that you go to buy kids' books. And I just really hope that it brings your family together. You know, I really wanted to create books and content that you wanted to share with your kids, that didn't want you to go, oh, not this one. But you were like, yes, we get to do this story again. And maybe it will spark some conversation, it will spark some insight, and that you get that everyone enjoys it together.
Well, that is wonderful. So it sounds like it's going to be easy for us to get a copy of. Now, how can my listeners connect with you online? Is there a good meeting spot for you?
Yes, there's my website. It's just www.aligilkeson.com. I have my Instagram, Ali Gilk. You can go via Rend Collective. You can go via me. You can go. We have a whole website with Rend Co Kids that's purely developed with a kids album and kids music and content for you and the whole family. If you're sick of listening to The Greatest Showman, there's stuff there for you.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to add all of those links that you just mentioned to the show notes for this episode. But Ali, this has really been a pleasure for me. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I just have so much respect and honor for all the parents that are out there homeschooling and doing a great job. And keep going. You're doing amazing. And anyway, we can support and love you. We're here for it.